Today we'll be covering, first of all, Cardiff. If you're not familiar with Cardiff as a location, but also about Cardiff University, then we talk about Cardiff and the location, and I'll hand that over to Beth, because since she's there and she's from Wales, she will have the best perspective on Cardiff and can tell you more. She's also going to be talking to you about the International Study Centre, about who you will meet at the ISC, and then I will take it back and talk to you about the November start that is just around the corner next month. I mean, I can't believe it. We're just 4 weeks out or so, or 5 weeks. It's just time flies. Then what happens next? If you've not confirmed your placement yet, the countdown to your start date, to how to get ready for your visa. We're going to talk a little bit about, just some formalities such as insurance. We're going to talk about your welcome hub, which you will be receiving once you're confirmed, and some opportunities for you to get engaged in extracurricular activities to push up your CV. And that is the Global Student Ambassador Program. And then we'll talk also about the student ambassadors we have available to chat 24/7. So we'll get started. So first off, Cardiff University. Why choose Cardiff University? Cardiff University is one of the Russell Group universities. If you're not familiar with that term, I always like to compare it to Ivy League universities in the US. The Russell Group universities, it's a group of 24 universities within the UK, and they're leading the academic research within the country, but also globally. Now, Cardiff University is ranked 154th in the world, which is a massive achievement, because if you know how many universities are out there, it's in the thousands. And so being 154th in the world is massive. They've also recently improved their ranking. So they used to be 166. So the university strives year on year to improve their global world ranking. And they do that a lot with their research impact that they have as well, and employability, etc. They're 25th in the UK. They're ranked 11th for research impact and 14th for research excellence in the UK. They're also number two for Students' Union in the UK. And that is really significant. I know you might say, oh, Student Union, what is that? This is where all the societies take place. This is the connection really for you to figure out a little bit more about yourself, to build a community at the university, to have some outlets outside of your academic studies, to have that study-life balance, but also really to build on your soft skills. You will be having stronger employability if you work on your soft skills, if you figure out your strengths and your weaknesses, if you're really going after your interests and looking into some of the topic areas that you might want to have a career in. And you can do that in societies. They have all sorts of societies. Societies represent interests of students. And so getting engaged that and having the number 2 student union across the UK is really significant, because it just means that students are getting a lot engaged in there. They have a very strong student community throughout, for students connecting, but then also for students to just build up their CV, build up their soft skills for employability. If we go to the next slide. So the teaching at Cardiff, you can really summarize in 2 points. So they have a well-rounded student experience. Again, what I mentioned, academics, but also having that study life, the life study balance. Make sure, academics are one thing and absolutely a main focus, but you also need to be able to figure out what is in your surroundings, make connections, build a network, and you do that through a lot of opportunities that the university offers you, tools, career support system, things like that are offered and that are really assisting to that well-rounded student experience. And then life-changing research. As mentioned on the previous slide, the university is leading in research. They're also part of the Russell Group University that are leading as a group on academic research and excellence. And this is their focus areas to really push, the thinking forward, always provide new ideas and really push global habits as well in education and impact them with their research. Next slide, please. So these are some of the graduate destinations. So of course, if you're choosing a university, one aspect is, okay, how will the degree help me then to get work? And maybe not just in the UK, but also globally. So as you can see here, especially on the top line, you can see some very strong international names that you probably find in your country as well. And then there are a lot of companies that you can find around Cardiff. But then because the proximity to Bristol, some students are also finding their companies to work for in Bristol and building that network across England and Wales, actually. And Beth will tell you a little bit about more how this location is actually really good for students. So you see just like a lot of strong international names that graduate students have already started with, they have connection with, they have a very strong alumni network that can also help them with referrals, etc. The career service team can help in setting up interviews for you. Of course, it's always up to you then to make sure that you score in the interview and get that offer. But in helping up and setting up interviews, the career service team can certainly help, and that strong network of different companies will assist with that. Next slide, please. Okay, I'll hand it over to Beth to bring you to beautiful Cardiff.
Hello, let's talk about Cardiff as the capital city of Wales. So Wales is one of the 4 countries that make up the United Kingdom. Wales is its own country with its own capital city. So we've got our own history. We've got the Millennium Centre, which is on the waterfront. You'll also have seen the Millennium Centre if you're big into sport, because it's where our big sporting events are held. You've got a 2,000-year-old castle that sits in the middle. If you look behind me in the picture, that's Cardiff Bay, so you can see the seat of power. That's the Pierhead building in the Senedd. So that's where Welsh government sits, because Cardiff has got its own governance system that governs Wales from Cardiff Bay. Our space is also a green space. So our city has the most green space of any city in the UK per square footage and per person. So not only have you got somewhere that's got all the shops that you need, all the places that you can think of within a short space, but also it's got parks, mountains, shops, anything that you can think of is within the cityscape, an hour and a half walk one end to the other. It's also easily accessible to, as Natasha said, to Bristol, to Bath, to London. London is only 2 hours on a flyer train from Cardiff Central to main Piccadilly. So you can have the train 2 hours and be in Cardiff. And our students regularly travel up on the weekend to go to nights out and days out and theatre trips up in London to see the big city. And then they look forward to coming back, and they'll tell you they enjoy coming back to Cardiff because of the difference in the lifestyle and the city life. Cardiff Airport's only 30 minutes from the university. Bristol is only an hour's drive, and London Heathrow, as we said, is 2 hours to London. But you've also got Manchester. There's a train from Cardiff Central to Manchester. There's also a train from Cardiff Central to Birmingham. So it's a well-linked city that links out to the UK. So even though you're outside of London, you're only ever 2 hours away from London. So on top of all your green space with everything you need, you can also travel out if you need to for things that you want to go to. Next slide, please. Thank you. 5 facts about Cardiff then. So what's the population? Population of the city is around 350,000, but approximately 70,000 to 80,000 of that is traveling students. And it's a city that changes by the seasons, and you can always tell when the students are in and when the students are not, because so much of the city is made up by students. It's not just made up by students, though, it's made up of international students as well. And there are over 94 languages spoken in the city, including Welsh being one of them. The top most welcoming cities, UK's second most affordable city. So on top of the fact that it is a cityscape with an hour and a half walk, it's also one of the most affordable cities. So the cost of living impact is limited in Cardiff because the cost for rents, rates, meals out, shopping is not as expensive as if you were, for example, in London, where it's a lot higher. So I mentioned Welsh, and I'm going to mention it again. It is Europe's oldest living language. However, when you're in the cityscape of Cardiff, English is the predominant language. English is the language you'll hear spoken by every shop, every person, every spokesperson will be speaking in English, though you will see Welsh signage and you will see and hear people speaking Welsh occasionally as well. The national symbol, red dragon, can't miss it. It's everywhere around the city. The traditional Welsh foods and the market, you'll be able to see the market. Cardiff Market is one of the oldest markets in the UK, and it's not just a market selling Welsh products, it's also an international food market, so you can get foods from across the world, you can get clothing from across the world. It is a market of so many people. And you've also got in the city the arcades. Now it's National Arcade Day coming up, and Cardiff is featuring in the National Arcade Day because we've got some of the old Victorian arcades still standing where you can go and see what the place would have looked like in the 1800s. And you can see the arcades with all the shops and very much interesting little bespoke shops, including Wally's International Supermarket, which is inside one of the arcades. And you can climb as highest mountain. You've got Snowdon or Arwyddfa, which is the tallest mountain in Wales at 3,560 feet. It is in the Snowdonian Mountains, which are just north of Cardiff, about 2.5 hours north of Cardiff. You also have the Beacons, which are a bit closer. They're only 45 minutes away if you want to go more walking into mountains. Next slide, please. So why go to Cardiff? Cardiff International Study Centre works very, very closely with Cardiff University. So we work in conjunction with each other. All our programs, all our modules, all our teaching staff have engagement with the teaching staff at Cardiff University. Many of our professors, lecturers, teachers also teach in the schools in Cardiff University. So they are the same people you'll see in your second year, your third year, because they also teach at the university. So they are experts in their field. They are experts in research and they are experts in teaching. You'll have lectures, seminars, tutorials. You'll also have self-study in a safe learning environment. And that's really key. It's small classes with attention just for you. There's formative assessment, which is the assessments that don't count towards your summative, your final mark, but they tell us what you can do and what you need more work on. And then we can put bespoke work in for you to make sure that you can get up to those progression requirements. It's tailored to you. We combine a focus on improving your English language skills to prepare you for studies in the UK. So we encourage you to engage in English conversation in your classrooms, in the open areas, in our social lounge, where most of the students seem to be sitting at the moment when I look out of the window, and I can see them up in the social lounge with the pool tables in between sessions. So you've got these spaces where students can go, but you've also got this teaching style which supports you to progression. Next slide, please. So student experience, I just mentioned a social lounge. The student experience at Cardiff is essential for you to be successful. So not only by engaging in the culture of Wales, and as Natasha said, engaging in employability to really improve those soft skills and to make you the best of your CV that you can be, including your graduate degree, it's also about a pathway programme that surrounds you with other international students. You'll become an international student, then you'll become an international graduate. And the more people you've engaged with, the more people that you've had this social space with, the better you'll be and the more experienced you'll be in both your academic studies and in your social studies. So there's social spaces. We've got the lounge that's got pool tables, it's got vending machines, it's got big screens of tellies that they're watching at the moment. I think there's sport on, at least there was when I last looked. You've also got bespoke welfare support. So I'm one of the welfare team. I'm the head of the welfare team. So not only is it about supporting you academically, but it's also about supporting your well-being. Your well-being is just as important to us as your academic studies, because in order to thrive on any program, you need to be safe in your sphere and knowing that you can be successful. So we'll support you with progression and we'll support you with your own well-being, making sure that you've got access to any support services that you do need. Next slide, please. So we've spoken a lot about this, about what to expect and the teachers and what the teaching solutions are. However, let's talk a bit about what it will be like. So in your classrooms, you'll have classrooms where you'll have no more than 20 students. The majority of the classes are lower than 20 students. They're around 16 to 18. You'll also have a personal academic tutor. Now that's separate to the progression I said about and the welfare and the support. Your personal academic tutor is the personal tutor for you to talk about your academic studies with. They're the ones that can support you after formative assessment where you do need additional work. They can direct you to the right places, or they can indeed put support in themselves. If you're going into a highly competitive pathway, you'll have academic tutorials on things like your portfolio for architecture. So you'll have weekly personal tutorials based just on the architecture portfolio so that you can get ready for that portfolio when it's due in for submission, and we'll be confident that that portfolio is the best that it can be before it's submitted. And that academic personal tutor is the person who will help you do that. You can see some of the ISC team there. You can see myself figuring right at the front. We've also got in there, you've got some of the welfare team with Hannah Biss, who's welfare and support lead, and Janine, who's our welfare and student advisor. You've got Rachel, who's head of English personal tutorial lead, Connor, who's head of business and law, Hannah Hainsworth, who you'll meet on day one of your induction. Hannah Hainsworth is our head of centre. So she heads up the centre and all the operational and all the module development and everything that's going to be the growth of this centre and the ISC. You've got many other teachers and academic team though, and when you do enroll on the course, we'll show you the virtual student reception, and when you're in the virtual student reception, there's a link that'll take you to a bio for everybody who's part of the ISC team. So there's currently 57 staff as part of the ISC team, and each of them in there will have a bio and it'll tell you a bit about them. Next slide, please. Briefly, let's talk a little bit about accommodation. Accommodation is incredibly important in Cardiff, and it's incredibly important that you book before you arrive. Students under the age of 18, when the course begins, can choose from a range of university managed residences. So the university has halls of residence. I'm sitting in one at the moment where I can see the halls of residence. They've got their own kitchens. They've got groups that are living together, and they must be enjoying themselves because I don't see them in the morning. I only see them in the evening when they're coming out to the kitchen table. I always think they must have been in studies all day and they must have been working really hard. And that's why they were there early in the morning. And then if you're over 18 when the course begins, you can choose from our private accommodation provider, which is Collegiate, and you can book a room with Collegiate. We always recommend you organise accommodation through our central support services. However, if you are booking your accommodation, you have to be a 60-minute commute of Cardiff ISC. So that's not a 60-minute commute on the train. That's not an hour on the train. That's an hour door to door. So from the front door of your accommodation to the front door of the ISC should be less than 60 minutes. That's really important because if you've got extra travel either side, it can be a very long day if you're traveling on large commutes. And the infrastructure links are exceptionally good, but when you're traveling that amount of distance with that many different caveats, there are so many things that can change, and it's expensive. Travel in the UK, long travel is expensive, and commuter travel is expensive. Next slide, please. So there's some examples of the university residences. And as you can see, you've got part catered options with shared bathrooms, right through to ensuite self-catered. If you're in our private accommodation in Eclipse, it's a 17-minute walk from the ISC. And in there, you've got a choice of 6-bed ensuite shared apartments or studios, private studio apartments. Now, accommodation is at a premium in Cardiff. Please be aware that students need to book in advance because it is getting difficult to secure accommodation in Cardiff. So go with ours so we can guarantee the accommodation for you rather than arriving and then looking to book, because it can be difficult when you arrive to find accommodations. I think I'm over to you now, Natasha.
Yes, back to me. Thanks so much, Beth. So we're going to talk a little bit of just straightforward information for you. I know this can seem like quite a lot. Don't worry, we're going to be sharing those slides with you afterwards and also the recording. So if you feel like you've missed anything, you can always rewind back. So first forward, obviously, you probably joined because you received this invite to learn a little bit more about the November intake. So the November start, which will start next month on the 27th, is a 3-week induction period. And so after those 3 weeks, you're finishing around the 15th of December. You have the winter break, just like the September intake has as well. And then you're joining the academic cohort on the 15th of January. It's a lot of 15th in there, which I think is quite ironic, but it's easy then to remember. Finish on the 15th of December and you're rejoining on the 15th of January. So you have a proper month then break to really readjust and enjoy the lovely Christmas period here in the UK as well. You do not want to miss that. It's one of the best times here in this country. So you have that induction period, the 3 weeks, which is a fantastic opportunity to meet the team. You will see a whole lot of Beth and her team as well during that time. You will have an opportunity to really settle in. I cannot stress enough how there's a lot of information to go through as soon as you start your induction period. When you join in the January intake, you have 1 week of induction period. So all of the things that we're doing over 3 weeks, you have to be cramming into 1 week, and that can be quite overwhelming. So having these 3 weeks induction period kind of spreads out all of the things that you need to sort out, such as bank account, getting your BRP, getting, you know, of course, with accommodation, you have that sorted beforehand, but you still might need to figure out some bits and pieces, you know, for your own apartment to really settle in, to sort out your transportation back and forth depending on where you're staying. So there's a lot of elements, you know, to sort out. If you don't have a laptop yet to bring with you, you might want to sort that out when you're in the UK. With that 3 weeks induction period, you have plenty of time to get that sorted. So it's just a fantastic opportunity to have proper time for onboarding, no stress for your academics yet, and then you are well prepared when you're joining in January. And on top of that, you can assist all of the students that are joining in January because you're going to be the Cardiff expert by that time. So you can join that buddy system and help other students out. So really the induction period, 3 weeks, and the application process is just like for the September and the January intake as well. Next slide, please. So just a couple of things that you will go through. So you will start a little bit of, you know, communication skills, obviously, because you're going to be talking to your classmates. You're going to do some activities where you also need to support. There's some team building activities within that as well. So you're going to be communicating quite a lot with your classmates and with the team at the ISC. Your digital skills. So again, as I said, you know, having a laptop for your academics is really crucial. I mean, you have to, it's mandatory to have a laptop with you because you cannot do any assessments really on your iPhone or on your iPad. So just make sure that you really have a proper laptop with you that you can work on. And so it will be good, you know, to have some guidance on there as well, how to properly set yourself up for the academics, then later on, how to navigate through the virtual learning platform. There's a lot of different things and elements to take away then during that time. Feel part of the community. This is what I've mentioned, so you can really settle in, figure out, you know, your way around Cardiff, but also make friends already, really bond over that Christmas period because you're all starting in the November intake and then you're all bridging that Christmas break over until the January intake. So there's a lot of different elements on why this November start is a really good addition for students. And just to mention as well, it doesn't change anything with your tuition fee. You're still paying the same tuition fee as if you would start in January. You're really just taking that free induction period of 3 weeks with you before you're starting your academics in January. And students have really enjoyed this. Last year was our first November intake, and the ISC has really enjoyed that as well, because honestly, it gives them also a chance to get to know you better in those 3 weeks rather than just 1 week induction period. So it's just a win-win from both sides, and it's just a really enjoyable time at the center. Next slide. So what happens next? So in case you have not confirmed your placement yet, you probably have applied and you received an offer letter. You might still have documents outstanding in order to get your CAS or to confirm your placement. Make sure that you're submitting all of your documents. You have to, of course, pay the confirmation deposit, admin fee, but then also pay a tuition fee because the intake is around the corner. And if you want your CAS statement in order to get your visa, you need to pay already a portion of the tuition fee. And then also be noticed that there will be a tuition fee due before you start your induction period as well. Then you apply for your CAS. If all the compliances are checked, you will receive a CAS. This is the sponsor letter that you will need to provide for your visa application. Make sure that is all correct. Make sure that your passport is valid for at least 6 months after the official intake date. If not, if you're running close, if you're questioning it, better to renew it right now. And better to renew it before you're asking for the CAS, because if you have to change the passport number, add a sponsor note, it sometimes gets a bit complicated, and you really do not want to have a visa refusal just because, you know, you renewed your passport. So just make sure you get that all sorted beforehand. Once you have your CAS in hand, you can go and apply for your visa, and you shouldn't really not wait too long on that. Visa processing time depends on your country, but the longer you wait, the more you're just running into risk. There's always complications, you know, there's always cases where things have, you know, maybe have gone through a different process and then it takes longer than expected. So just make sure as soon as you have the CAS, you're also submitting your visa appointment. Next slide, please. So in order to then to really start the countdown for the intake date, apply for your visa, sort out your accommodation. Beth had mentioned that already earlier. Really, really important. I mean, I'm sure that you all agree with us. When you're coming to a new country, to a new location, last thing you want is not have a home. So make sure you sort out accommodation beforehand. Pay the required fees, as mentioned as well. So there is an outline payment plan in your offer letter. Make sure that you're paying in line with that. Book your travel. So once you confirmed your place, you're actually getting a Welcome Hub link, and that will be on the next slide. And it will give you a pre-arrival form. You need to fill that in because the ISC needs to really be informed of your travel plans. Because in that way, if there's any emergencies, they can help you out. If they have no clue when you're going to be arriving, what flight you are on, if you have transportation booked, if you have accommodation booked, then you show up all the time, all of a sudden, or you're calling the emergency hotline. They do not know, and they don't have you on the radar. So it's it's mandatory as well to send that pre-arrival form with all of your travel plans in beforehand, so the ISC is well aware of everything. Check your equipment. So again, laptop is required. Make sure that you have a functioning laptop and it's not so out of date that you cannot add any app or you cannot access our virtual learning platform. Make sure you check all of these things, or then budget that you can buy a new laptop when you're in the UK. Check that your passport is valid for the 6 months past the intake date. I had mentioned that earlier. Organize a small pocket money for you in case your bank cards are not working, but do not bring large amounts with you, because obviously if money gets lost, it's lost, right? It's always safer when you transfer it later when you open a bank account, but have some small change on you. Do not bring £50 bill because most shops won't accept them. So it's best to have 20, 10 and 5s and small change, not massive volumes of cash on you. Bring some the copies of your important documents. That's very important. Even though many students won't be asked to provide any documents upon arrival at the airport, but sometimes they do. And then you do not want to fluster around and try to find things on your iPhone or on your phone. Your documents, you want to have them all sorted, all printed out, so that if anybody's asking you for anything specific, you can pull that out and have it ready. And also it's good to have when you're registering at the ISC in case the ISC is asking you for any extra documents. Get 4 passport-sized photographs. That's good for you to have for any IDs that you might have to set up. It's always good to have already handy. And sort out your transportation. If you're flying into Cardiff because you're transferring through an international airport, it's only 30 minutes, so a taxi is absolutely fine. If you're flying into London, I would recommend a train or a bus service. They're running very, very frequently, I think almost hourly. So there is no point in taking a taxi. You'll just pay a lot of money. But that is up to you. If you want to take it back, book a taxi service, that's absolutely fine. Central Student Support System can help you with that. So there's an email address there in the red dot, which is cardiffisc.css@studygroup.com. This is our central student support team, and they can help you with the accommodation, but they can also help you sorting out any transportation and making recommendations for whenever you're planning to fly in, what location, and then accordingly recommend transportation for you. And then also there will be a pre-arrival event, which will be online, and it's mandatory for you to join. So on the next slides, if you can just go on there. Oh, sorry, it's actually, can you skip one more to the Welcome Hub? Thank you. So once you're confirming your place, you're getting actually a Welcome Hub link. This will be sent to your email address, and that email address will be the one that you submitted your application with. On this Welcome Hub, you will have all of the information. You will have the information for the pre-arrival session. You will have the information for your pre-arrival form that you need to submit. You will have already know how to register on the virtual learning platform. So there's a lot of details on that Welcome Hub link. And I strongly recommend, as soon as you have it, that you browse through it. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to the Central Student Support team. Sorry, Danny, can I ask you to skip back now to the slides? So to get ready for your visa, just a quick note as well. All of the countries have different CAS deadlines, and you have to make sure that you know the visa processing time for the country that you're applying from. The CAS deadlines are in line with how long the visa processing time are according to the country. And this is why you have differences. There's no other reason, just that some countries take longer on average to process a visa than others. There's also priority visa services available. Make sure you check that, especially the closer we're getting to intake, and you might not have like a proper 4 weeks visa processing time anymore. You can ask for visa priority service. That is obviously an additional cost, but it will get you the visa within 10 days or even with potentially 5 days. So there's still opportunities for you to get your CAS sorted, but just make sure that you keep an eye on these CAS deadlines. One is coming up this week, and then you have a couple more at the end of the month and then in the beginning of November. Okay, so just quickly on study care insurance. By default, with most of your applications and your offer letters, you will already have study care insurance, which is the insurance that we recommend, already added onto your offer letter. It's a small extra charge for your pathway program. Now, you don't have to take necessarily study care insurance. You can also take your own insurance. But the point of this is that we really recommend that you have additional insurance to just the NHS insurance that you get with your visa application. The public insurance is great in emergencies, but if you need anything outside of it, so let's say, you know, during the pandemic, a lot of students needed to get flights out, or they needed to extend their accommodation. NHS won't cover that. These are like private insurances that stepped in then and helped the students out. And our study care insurance did that as well. They extended the whole emergency package, and they included, you know, covering for extra stays if students could not fly out, or they would cover the flights back home, you know, in emergencies. And those kind of things, I think if the pandemic taught us anything, is to be super careful with those kind of things and always be better over-prepared than under-prepared. So we just highly recommend to check out the policies that we have. In your offer letter, you will have a reference and a link to the policy on our website. Read through it. If you have already your own private insurance in your home country and it can be extended to the UK, fantastic, you can take that. Or you can just simply pay for our study care insurance as well. It will be built into your tuition fee. You will see that in your offer letter. And then you at least know that you have extra coverage during that year. And then next slide was the Welcome Hub. We talked about this already. So last thing that I want to cover is the Global Student Ambassador Program. So you as a student, you can get engaged as an ambassador during your pathway because students really want to hear from you. They want to hear the student's voice, the student's perspective about your experience studying at the ISC. I mean, as great as it is to have Beth here and having the perspective from the ISC team, it's always really valuable to hear it from your own voice. And especially like you are now joining us here, the Global Ambassadors are then just really a support system for us to bring across a couple of things from their experience, you know, what to look out for when you are moving abroad for the first time. How did they feel about settling into Cardiff? And so some of these activities that they will get engaged in are, for example, webinars like these, or they're writing blogs on their experience. They do videos and vlogs. They participate in events. So there's loads of different activities. And what this really helps you with is to, first of all, become part of the community. You're going to liaise really closely with the ISC team. And B is really to build your soft skills, because these are all qualities that you can first put on your CV, but you can also figure out for yourself, where are my strengths, where are my weaknesses? Is this something that I actually enjoy doing? Can I see a career pathway with that as well? So there's a lot of benefits in becoming a Global Student Ambassador program. Obviously, you can also gain references then as well, LinkedIn references, but also references then individual for your career prospects, or maybe when you're going for any interviews. So there's a lot of benefits in becoming engaged. And really for you, it's just a fun way of talking about your experience as an ISC student. So if you want to get engaged in that, if you want to be part of that, then feel free to submit an application already. You don't have to be a student yet, or you don't have to be registered at the ISC. I mean, you have to be confirmed. That's true. You want to start at the ISC in November, but you can certainly already submit an application to become an ambassador. And then last but not least, you also have a chance now, if you want to hear a student voice about their experience at the ISC and progression to the university, to chat with one of our student ambassadors. So the difference to those ambassadors is that they already progressed to the university, and they're already actually now they are moving into their second year. So they have just started their second year at the university. Really exciting times. So we have kind of been involved in their lives last year as well. Students have reached out with them already. They are active for, I would say, a good year now on our TAP platform. It's accessible through the ISC website. And then you can just chat with them. You can create a profile. You just type in any questions that you have. Of course, they cannot answer anything admissions related, but they can answer anything around student experience, progression support. What is life like once you're progressing to the university? What are the undergrad study like? So Flavia, for example, she progressed to law. Noor, I believe, progressed to optometry. So we have different fields as well. Gerono progressed to architecture. So there are different areas as well. They're progressing into different faculties. Everybody has their own individual experience, and you can find out more from them. They got engaged in ambassador activities throughout the ISC as well. So definitely have reach out, take that opportunity, and they really try to respond quite quickly. Of course, with the time and difference, you always have to be mindful that, you know, they might reply over the weekend, that it might take 2 days, but during the week, they really try to be responding within a couple of hours time. So definitely take advantage of that to learn more about Cardiff and the International Study Center and the university. All right, are there any questions? We've come to the end of our presentation. Thank you so much. I know that